Everyone, it's time for another edition of Beaver Banter.
Beaver Sports Talk lives here.
It is the Beaver Banter podcast. I'm CJ Baumgartner, Ian Rivers over there. It's a great day to be a Beaver. This is the Beaver Banter podcast, again, brought to you by Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation, proud sponsors of the Beaver Banter podcast. Ian, another week in the books. Beautiful weekend coming up here in Bemidji, so should be a fun one as well. Just kind of quick recap kind of on everything Beaver sports related. The number one story, Ian, might be women's soccer. Does it appear that they got their swagger back?
Yeah. I don't know if you were trying to set me up to do the viral clip, but I chickened out. I thought about it for a half a second. But then I'm like, nah, you know what? I don't really have the energy for that today. So.
I was thinking about doing that, and then I was like, the reports of the death have been greatly exaggerated or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, a huge weekend for Bemidji State women's soccer, getting a weekend sweep in NSIC play.
Yeah, absolutely. That's got to be the big headline. They might be back up. Southwest and Sioux Falls, definitely not the pinnacle of women's soccer in the NSIC, but you know what? Last year, Beavers had some struggles with some teams that were in the middle and the bottom portion of the conference. So it's good to see them start off strong. This is now a 4-game winning streak after losing their first game of the season to Missouri Western State.
Who is receiving votes, by the way.
Receiving votes, yes. Or at least they were at the time. I'm not sure where they're at now, but yeah, it's a good way to start off the season. Win on senior night and a win on Parents' Day. I watched a really good chunk of that Friday game against Southwest, and that was some of the most aggressive soccer I've seen the team play in quite a while, to be honest. Unfortunately, most of the goal scoring happened before I even got home. I think I missed the first 25 minutes of the game, and it was 2-1 Beavers by the time I turned it on. And so I did see the second half goal by Emma Hulsnitz, but unfortunately, I missed Kenzie Harris' goal and Sylvie Waters' goals in the first half. Katrina Barthelt added 2 assists on the day to the first 2 goals of the game. Yeah, it was just pretty complete dominance from BSU. They won the shot battle 23-9 in this game, 12-5 in terms of shots on target. BSU's goalkeeper only had to make 4 saves, of course, giving up a goal in the first half. Just 10 minutes into the game. It is what it is. Still haven't seen a game that they've given up more than 2 goals in, which is really good to see. And then they stay undefeated all time against Sioux Falls. They are now, I believe, 13-0 all time, CJ, against the Cougars. So that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. And it was Katrina Barthelt scoring her 4th goal of the season. It was off of a corner kick, and it was kind of a deflected header type of situation on Sunday. So a 1-0 win. The Beavers have 6 points in the NSIC standings, and that's a good place to be through just 2 games. They're currently in a 6-way tie at the top with Concordia St. Paul, Augustana, Minnesota State, Wayne State, and Minnesota Duluth. So a couple of familiar faces up there with Concordia and Augustana, Minnesota State. Wayne State's usually middle of the pack. They're usually around the 7-8 mark when playoff times kind of roll around. And then Minnesota Duluth, I guess maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like they're usually around 10th or 11th in the conference. So I'm not sure who they played, but they started off 2-0 with 6 points as well. So yeah, we'll see if it can keep rolling this weekend. They have to go on the road to play against Augustana and Wayne State. So, this will be a real test, CJ. 2 teams that are undefeated, 2-0, 6 points in NSIC play. Hopefully the Beavers can stand up to the task this weekend.
Yeah, it's always tough to make that, you got to go again on that road trip to Augustana and then all the way to Wayne. It can be a tough road trip for a team, especially in northern Minnesota like Bemidji, to have to make that trek all the way down there. But yeah, this is going to be a huge weekend. These two teams in Augustana and Wayne State, if you look at last year in terms of goals scored, Wayne State was 7th in the conference with 26 goals scored last year compared to 21 goals allowed. Meanwhile, Augustana was 4th with 28 goals scored, 15 goals allowed. Now, the good thing is Bemidji State, like we've talked about on many shows before, a very defensive-minded team, ready to go on the attack, ready to do what they need to do as well. And it probably is going to be a game where it, again, which style plays out. Will Bemidji State be able to kind of get these teams offensively where they want to be, which is really just kind of burning them to dust, or grinding them to dust is maybe the better word there. And I think Bemidji State's in a good spot to do that. Like you said, Ian, it's not just the fact that Bemidji State has played great defense, and they have. Outside of their first game of the season where they gave up 2 goals, they have not given up more than 1 since that game. 0 goals against Northwest Missouri State, 1 against UMD, 1 against Southwest, and none against Sioux Falls. So since they've played their first game of the year, the following 4, they've given up the exact same amount of goals, which is awesome to see that defense being back to where it usually is. And this is the game changer, Ian, is with the offense. Like you said, being as aggressive as they are. And not that Bemidji State's offense, I'm not trying to say they were bad over the last couple of years. That's not what I'm saying. But it's more of it just felt like there was so much of an effort put on defense, and the offense was just kind of hanging on at times and things like that. Whereas if you can get a team that can go on the attack and feel like they have the swagger when they are in a position to attack, they still are going to be a defensive-minded soccer team. That's how they've been under Coach Stone, and they've won a lot of games that way. It's hard to argue with the success. So to see them, though, have that option when they feel like the time is right to attack and be on the offensive, and they've already had 2 games where they've scored 3 or more goals, it's just a really, really good sign heading into the first kind of real test of conference play next weekend in Sioux Falls against Augustana and in Wayne against Wayne State. It really does just give you a lot of confidence in, because the defense is there. And now we're just starting to see maybe an offense that's got a little more juice than compared to the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very good news to be scoring goals. That's how you win games. I was just looking over last season's schedule just to see how many times they did score 3 goals or more. They scored 3 goals or more on 4 different occasions last year. One was an out-of-conference affair against Upper Iowa, a 3-0 victory against Minnesota Crookston in there, 3-0 victory against Winona State, and then a 3-0 victory in the final game of the regular season against Minnesota Duluth. So they did it on 4 occasions last year, already to half of that mark this year. So I guess they're kind of on pace, because a couple of those were pretty early season for the Beavs last year as well. But yeah, I'm excited to see what these games have in store this year. Last year, these 2 teams played the Beavers on kind of a similar schedule. It was a same weekend trip in Wayne and then up to Sioux Falls. They played in Wayne on Friday and they tied 1-1, and then they played in Augustana on Sunday in Sioux Falls and tied 1-1. And that was in that rough stretch of October and early November soccer that they played last year, where they didn't win a single game through 6. They had a loss and then 3 ties in a row, followed by 2 more losses before they rounded out the regular season with the win over Minnesota Duluth. So we'll see what they can do this year. It's again on the road. It's unfortunate to get back-to-back road trips to Wayne in back-to-back seasons, but it is what it is. You just got to step up to the task, and hopefully they can pick up at least 3 points this weekend. It would be awesome if they could get, even 4, because those are 2 teams that are probably going to be battling it out for, playoff position come the end of the season. And we don't really know what the expectations are for this year. We didn't really set any for this team. We just kind of said, last year was a bit of a disappointment, I'm sure, from interior or internal, perspective as well. They probably thought that. So, we're going to let it play out. This is a great start to the season to get 6 points. But, this is really going to be a good barometer for where this team is at heading, into the next month or so of conference play, and what we can expect to see from them against some of the top teams in the conference.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be a huge test. Can't wait to see it. And I don't know. It kind of feels like this might be a team that gets their swagger back, for lack of a better term. No, they had a good season a year ago. I know they had that bad stretch, but they still were a good soccer team. They just weren't quite up to kind of the standards that they had set in years past. And now it kind of feels like, all right, they got some things refigured out. They're ready to roll. And yeah, good start. And we'll see how high this ceiling can be with that upcoming weekend series. Ian, anything else women's soccer related before we turn the page?
No, I don't think so. I think we hit it all. I guess we can touch on what times the games are at. Friday's game against Augustana is at 4 p.m. and then Sunday at 1 p.m. So a little bit earlier kickoff for the Friday game this time. I know last weekend it was at 7, but the Sunday starting at 1 p.m. is usually pretty standard. I pretty sure I'm looking down the list, and all the Sunday games seem to start at 1 p.m. So that's a pretty standard thing. But yeah, 4 p.m. and then 1 p.m.
It works out. You can watch the Vikings in the morning, and then because they kick off at 8:30 for some unforeseen reason to God or man, and then they are going to and then once that game's done, you immediately can transition into Bemidji State women's soccer on Sunday.
I think the reason is that they play in London, CJ. I don't think it's just it's not a local game. I don't
no, the reason is they want football from like 8:30 in the morning till like 8:30 at night, which I get, but you hate it when it's your own
team. Not to get sidetracked here, but
let's get sidetracked here for a second.
It is like when I was a kid, when I was 17, like even in college, like I loved that London game because I was a sicko and I'm like, dude, 8:30 to 8:30
right when I wake up.
Let's go.
I roll out of bed, the game's already a quarter in. Like, exactly. Let's go.
Yep. I always was like super motivated to get out of bed and like watch the whole thing. And then I ended up waking up at 9:30 and I'm like, oh dude, what's the score?
I forgot to set my fantasy lineup.
And you're right. Like it is absolutely worse when it's your team. Like last week, the Chargers had to play a game at 9 p.m. Central Time. It's like, come on, like this stinks. I loved it when I was a kid. Like it reminded me of being a kid and getting to stay up late on school nights because they always used to do the double headers on Monday Night Football.
It was like week one.
It was like a welcome back. Yeah. It's and it was like almost always Chargers Raiders because they're both West Coast teams. Like, and I just loved it because I got to stay up late on a school night and like I just remember watching those games with Antonio Gates and LT and all that. And now that I'm older and maybe a little bit more crotchety, it sucks. I don't want, let's start them at 7:00 so that we can get to bed. All right. Like we don't need any of that.
I got to get up for work in the morning. Like, what is this? The good news is you can watch Bemidji State athletics right away at 1 p.m. Like you said, a constant on Sunday afternoons. Vikings are going to have those 2 weeks in a row, Ian, 2 weeks in a row, followed by a bye week. So that gives you 3 weeks where it's not going to interrupt your Vikings watching if you want to watch the Beavs play at 1 o'clock. So it's all lined up in front for everyone involved. Ian, we're going to talk a little football here for Bemidji State as they try and look for their first win of the season. We'll talk about what happened on Saturday and why there's a chance that Bemidji State can get that first victory this coming Saturday. We're going to talk about that in a second. But first, want to let you know about the great things that the Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation is doing. Once a Beaver, always a Beaver. The Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation is here to keep that green and white pride going strong for its 50,000 graduates around the world. From scholarships that open doors for students to events that bring BSU alumni and friends together, you can get connected, give back, and leave a legacy at Bemidji State. Whether you're a proud BSU grad, a local supporter, or just love cheering on the Beavers, you can come be a part of the action at bsualumni.org. That's bsualumni.org. bsualumni.org. Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation, proud sponsors of the Beaver Banter podcast. We appreciate all the work that they do and them wanting to put their names on this podcast as well. It's a really great to have them on board. I know they got some great stuff planned for homecoming that's happening. So just again, bsualumni.org for the Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation. Go follow them on Facebook. Go check out the website and all the great stuff that they're doing. Okay, Ian, Bemidji State football gets just another kind of game at home, another outing that the start wasn't necessarily great. They fumbled on the first play of the game, and then Augustana took that right in for a touchdown, and that pretty much, it was all Augie for the rest of the game. And things got out of hand and early, and things just kind of never felt like the game was really within the grasp of Bemidji State. They maybe would have an offensive drive that would get a couple first downs, and then just couldn't quite figure out a way to punch it in. And then Augustana's offense was rolling and could do a lot of things well. So Bemidji State now, after a 42-14 loss to Augustana, is 0-4 on the season. And it's really in a spot that they just have never been in the Brent Bolte era, where they've gone through the first month of the year without a win. It's crazy, Ian.
Yeah, it definitely is. Unprecedented, unforeseen by us. And it's just been a struggle for this team. The cohesion, we talked about it. We've talked about it a couple times, over this losing streak so far. And losing players is not always as easy to fill those gaps as sometimes it seems when you're, playing NCAA football and every player comes in and just fills the holes perfectly. Cohesion is built over, sometimes a couple of years and getting people in the program and letting them stick around. And unfortunately, it just seems like the Beavers lost too much and it just hasn't gelled yet for them. Fortunately, they do have a good opportunity this coming week against Minot State, another team who is 0-4. So somebody is going to be getting their first win of the season this week. And we hope it's the Beavers of Bemidji. So the Beaver Battle between two 0-4 teams. I don't think I would have told you that coming into this season, especially last year when Minot had a little bit of a better year than we expect from them. I'm not sure exactly who they've played so far on the season, but it's been a struggle for the offense, especially. And I think it compounds. Like, has it been a struggle for the offense because the defense hasn't been doing good enough and they have to feel like they're doing so much more? Or has it been a struggle for the defense because they have to carry so much of the weight because the offense hasn't been doing well enough? And I kind of think it goes both ways in this situation.
It's like a chicken or the egg situation.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a very symbiotic relationship that your offense has with your defense. We talked about kind of before the show how time of possession had been a big thing of concern going into this game against Augustana for the Beavers. And it wasn't even really a big concern because Augustana just marched down the field so quickly on the first half, especially that really they just gave Bemidji State the ball back right away. And unfortunately, the Beavers weren't able to do much with it until the second half. It was a 14-42 final score. I'm not sure if you said that in the lead up to this, CJ, but we saw three different quarterbacks in this game. Bart McAnich came in, I believe, in the second half, threw the ball 23 times, 13 of 23 for 157 yards and one touchdown. Antonio Brown was the leading rusher in this game, 10 carries for 57 yards. Was Jaden Washington injured for this game? Because I'm not seeing him on the stat sheet, so I don't know.
I didn't hear much about it on the broadcast, or if they did say it, I missed it. I guess would be the better way to say that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a little bit of a tougher week as they try and figure things out. To go back to your point about Minot State, by the way, they lost 27-7 to Emporia State, then 34-16 in Mankato, 27-21 to Concordia St. Paul, and then 35-25 at Winona. So there's one like opponent there in Winona State, but other than that, Concordia St. Paul, Mankato, and Emporia State, kind of the other teams on the schedule for the Beavers. If you would have came in and said, hey, in this matchup, the Beavers are 0-4, and you go, oh yeah, okay, Minot, that makes sense. And they go, no, the Beavers, just plural, are 0-4.
Yeah.
I would hit you. Like I'd be like, that's not true. Like, don't lie to me like that. So it's a very precarious situation that the Beavers find themselves in here in this game. And like you said, Ian, it's really tough to figure out where kind of to start the right spot. And I think the biggest thing, if you want to go, let's just kind of split the baby here. The biggest thing on defense has been the fact that they just haven't been able to get off the field in a way. And obviously Augustana was able to kind of do what they wanted. But I think too, as well, it's just tough. Your defense hasn't been able to find a way to create a lot of 3-and-outs, which means if you want to get a lot of stops, sometimes that's relying on getting turnovers, something of which they just haven't how lucky your turnovers, how are they not? We've talked about this in shows past as well. Some turnovers, not every turnover is created equally, but also like they just haven't created a lot of them, so they stay on the field a ton. And then when your offense isn't able to score, you end up going right back out there and doing things like that. So looking on the defense, just finding a way to create some turnovers, I think is just not the easiest way, but it's the simplest way to try and get some momentum, just to maybe flip field position to stop a team that's on the roll. Would be very a welcome sight for Bemidji State. And then when you turn onto the offensive side of things, it's like you said, Ian, there were 3 different quarterbacks that threw a pass for Bemidji State in that game. And again, the game situation may have impacted a little bit for the quarterback situation, but it's just trying to find that right synergy between whether it's Carver, whether it's Romack, whether it's any other quarterback on this roster, or whoever they want to be the signal caller for this team. Like, obviously it's college. You don't have preseason, you don't have scrimmages, you don't have a lot of stuff to work out some of the questions at the most important position on offense. Like, you have to figure it out in game, which is always a tough spot because every game is so important. But also you just wonder at what point, and again, I don't know this, I'm sure the coaching staff has that plan. At what point do they say, hey, this guy is our starting quarterback? You'd have to imagine it'd be within the next few weeks here, where you know, ideally, and again, I'm not a coach, so maybe there's a plan that's better than my brain, which doesn't take much, but like, maybe there is a plan of like starting quarterbacks throughout, but there's maybe a point of, we need to kind of appoint a starting quarterback who's going to be our guy. And it just feels like they maybe haven't seen enough of anybody yet to where it's like, you're the guy, you get it, here you go. Where, you know, there's just, the door is still open, I guess, and they're just still waiting to see who that's going to be. That's fine. I think we've already proven at this point in the season, Ian, that this is kind of a learning year for the Beavers. So, you know, it's just how soon can you get to that conclusion? And then when you do, it's building on that quarterback for the future.
Yeah, that's going to be something you want to figure out. At least get the last, month or so of the season over the next couple of games here, figure it out so that you can get whoever you think you want to go into next year with, the reps, and get them a lot of reps. Because what's one thing we can learn from, NFL players, like reps matter. These guys that are coming in here, no shade at JJ McCarthy. He's only played 2 games, but 7 of those quarters haven't looked great. No, he did get quite a few reps at the U of Michigan.
And also, there are some players around him that are hurt, and there are other circumstances that play into it. But I mean, the underlying point you're making is right.
Yeah. Anthony Richardson, Trey Lance, 2 quarterbacks that barely played college football, and now they come into the NFL. And no, this is a totally different scenario, talking about jumping from like your freshman or sophomore year at Division II college football to your junior and sophomore year or something, whatever it is. But I think just getting reps and getting comfortable with this offensive system, getting them comfortable for next year, figure out who you want to start or who you think you want to start. And obviously the offseason can change. You come into spring football and the battle looks totally different. Things can change, but I would like to see one quarterback maybe, getting a majority of the reps as the season dwindles along. But we'll see. It still is about winning football games. And if they feel like, the best way to win football games is by playing, multiple quarterbacks and keeping the defenses on their toes, then that's what you got to do. But I worry about defensively the Beavers' run defense in this game. 12th ranked in the NSIC, giving up almost 200 yards a game. Or I'm sorry, not quite, 183 yards a game. I was looking at Minnesota State. Minnesota State, by the way, 200 yards a game given up on the ground, and they're 4-0, I believe. How is that possible? They do have the top-ranked pass defense in the NSIC, but that is crazy.
Running just might be the only play you can get, moving. But, it's crazy to think
Either
about.
way, Bemidji State, 12th in the NSIC in run defense, and look at who's tops in the NSIC in rush offense. Now, it is a little bit of a volume stat for Minot State because they have run the ball almost 100 times more than anybody else in the NSIC. Well, not quite. Sioux Falls is only about 50 behind them, but they've run the ball 221 times. The next highest is 174 with Sioux Falls. They've only thrown the ball 26 times through 4 games, Minot State. So big key in this game for the Beavers is going to be getting out to an early start. If you can do what you did against Winona State and get a comfortable lead early and just kind of hold on to that, the longer you hold on to that lead in this game, both teams do like to run the ball. So this game is going to go by pretty quick, possessions are going to be at a premium. You've got to take advantage of them when you get them, because you might only get, 6 or 7 possessions in this game because of the way that these offenses function. If you filter it to see the average yards per rush, Bemidji State actually does have a better rush offense than Minot State, averaging 4.7 yards per carry compared to 4.5. But both teams are still top 5 in that metric. So we'll see. We'll see if BSU's defense is up to the task, because Minot is not shying away from what they do. They're a triple option offense. The Beavers were able to handle it last year when Minot came to town, but we'll see if this year they're up to the task.
It's a battle of two similar offenses when you look in terms of points scored throughout the season. Bemidji State has scored 71 points offensively, which is 10th in the NSIC. Minot State is 11th with 69 points scored so far throughout the year. So both teams basically averaging about 17 points per game through the first month of play. And then it's the defense where things get a little more interesting. Bemidji State right now in terms of points allowed, and again, they've played 4 good teams, I think you could say, in the first 4 games with Michigan Tech and with Winona, and
2 3-1 teams, a 4-0 team, and a 2-2 team. So
exactly. So again, it's a little bit of sample size stuff, but Bemidji State is last in terms of points allowed in the NSIC, allowing 156 points, which is averaging 39 a game through the first month. Minot has allowed 123 points, which is 12th, allowing 30.8 points per game. So we also talk about, I know you just mentioned the defense. This is also an opportunity for the offense to pick up some momentum against a Minot State team whose defense hasn't quite been up to the bill yet. So there is an opportunity if, like, hey, we have a chance to really just get some positive momentum with our offense today and a chance just to put some things right on tape. This is a good opportunity to do that. And on the flip side, obviously if you have issues for whatever reason, it's going to be a really concerning sign, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think Bemidji State will get their offense right when they don't play a defense that's as good as some of the ones they've played through the first month of the year. I mean, when you look at some of the squads that they've played, Augustana has a top 4 scoring defense as well when you look into this. So it kind of just depends on how things are going to shake out here. So we'll keep an eye on things, but right now, it's a huge game, I think, as well for the offense. So I think Bemidji State does get a win. I think they get win number 1 in the year. It's never easy to go to Minot and to try and get a win, but I do think Beaver Battle number 1 of the year will go towards the good Beavers in Bemidji State, especially because we lost the Beaver Battle last year in terms of Bemidji State versus Minot State in every sport. So this is a chance to at least get things out on the right foot. I think Bemidji State wins this one 20-14.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption. I think that the Bemidji State Beavers have a pedigree, whether or not this season's gone the way that they wanted to or not. And that pedigree, the coaches have been around. They know how to win games like this when your back is kind of against the wall. So I think that the Beavers of Bemidji will come out with a victory as well. I think the offense kind of gets it figured out. I'm going to go 28-17 in this game over Minot State.
All right. I like it. Beavers win. That's our prediction, and we'll see what happens. So we're going to talk a little bit as we keep going about women's hockey getting their first exhibition play over in Brainerd last weekend against the Gophers, and just some other things happening around Bemidji State athletics, including some golf updates, some cross-country updates, and a little bit others. But first, Ian, let's give another shout out to Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Do you want to be a part of the team behind the teams at Bemidji State? Join hundreds of dedicated fans when you donate to Beaver Athletics and help BSU pursue its next championship. Your gift can power your favorite program, establish a scholarship for a student athlete you get to meet, and so much more. Every dollar brings the Beavers closer to raising another trophy. You can add to the proud tradition of success at Bemidji State. So don't wait. Give today at bsualumni.org/Beavers. That's bsualumni.org/BEAVERS.
All right, let's take a look in men's golf. They are in day number 2 as of recording this podcast in the Jewel Invitational in Lake City at Jewel Golf Club. Bemidji State had a great start. They started second of 11 in that one. And again, this is a pre-recorded podcast, but taking a look through the live stats, it looks like Bemidji State is going to finish second in the team leaderboard. They're going to finish 16 under. Winona State is going to win their home meet, finishing at 30 under in that one. Now they still have, I think, the last couple holes to play, so maybe that changes, but Bemidji State ahead of Minnesota State, Minnesota Crookston, Sioux Falls, and Concordia, all of them finishing under par, but Bemidji State finishing below 16 in this one. If we look at the player leaderboard so far, Julius Arnicle of Bemidji State finished with 7 under in this one as kind of the Beavers' leading golfer today. Tegan LaPlante finished 3 under as well. Cullen Ryan finished 2 under for the Beavers, and that's kind of how this is breaking down. Logan Shep finished 2 up for Bemidji State, and I think that's it. So looking at the Beaver leaderboard there in terms of men's golf, overall a nice start for this meet. And Bemidji State, again, seeing a lot of conference competition here, pretty much a lot of conference teams and Upper Iowa in this one. For them to come away with second, definitely a good outing for Bemidji State men's golf.
Yeah, they just continue to pump out pretty decent results. It's been pretty par for the course, no pun intended, for the Beavers over the last couple of years on the men's side. Yeah, super excited to see what they can do, especially come this spring. See if they can get back to that national tournament.
And by the way, Bemidji State men's golf will be off next week. They are going to go all the way down to Oklahoma on October 6th to take part in the Skip Wagon Invitational at Rose Creek Country Club in Edmond, Oklahoma. So that is at Central Oklahoma, I believe, is the host of that one. So that's where they will be in a couple weeks. And then, of course, October 13th and 14th is the USF Invitational. And then that's it for the fall golf season, and then they kind of put things away until obviously everything clears up in the spring. So looking now over on the women's golf side of things, as I'm taking a minute here to let my stats pull up, they are also competing at the Watkins Invitational, which is in Winona. It's just under a different name, still at the Jewel Golf Club. They finished yesterday 10th of 12 in that one, and they end up finishing 11 in that one as they make it through. Looking at the player leaderboard, just seeing again who kind of finished as the top golfer for the Beavers in this one. This was a full kind of list with a lot of NSIC teams who are in the men's side of things. There's a little bit more wild cards when it comes to the women's side. We'll talk about that here in a second. But seeing Bemidji State's kind of leading golfer on the list, that was Lauren Kamen, who finished plus 22 in that. And in that tournament, the top golfer overall was Emerson Garley of Minnesota State, who finished 1 below par. Addie Wood finished even. Everybody else just a little bit above in their overall kind of stats here today. So Bemidji State women's golf finishing 11th in that one, and they will golf next weekend. They're going to go to Marshall for their final golf outing of the fall at the Everspring Inn and Suites Mustang Invite in Marshall at Marshall Golf Club. Obviously, SMSU, the host there. So that's where they're going to be at next week to wrap up the fall golf schedule. Yeah,
it's coming to close here. The nice weather is fooling us here, but fall is pushing right along, and sooner rather than later, I'm sure the cold winds will be whipping off of Lake Bemidji. So
don't remind
the golfers have to go scramble back indoors. Just as
was scramble also a pun?
Yes. I'm working on my golf. I'm working on my short game here. No, that doesn't work. Okay. I'm sorry, everyone.
All right.
I've let them know.
They teed it up for you and you whiffed.
Okay. Trying to get in on the action.
Trying to see how many people just decide, all right, we'll go to next week's show. All right. Looking in cross country, Bemidji State competed at the Roy Griak Invitational on Friday. That was down at Lee Bolstead Golf Course, down at the University of Minnesota in the Twin Cities. They ended up finishing 16th overall. Senior Maggie McCarthy was the only Beaver to be in the top 100. She had a time of 24 minutes, 13.8 seconds, which is 25th overall. The interesting thing about the Griak is it is a 6K race. A lot of cases, races end up being 5Ks. That's kind of the high school number, and a lot of them end up being at that 5K, but some collegiate races do go to the 6,000 meter race, and that's what this one was at the University of Minnesota. In her first collegiate 6,000 meter race ever, Jaslyn Hanneberger finished second on the team and 117th overall with a time of 26 minutes, 16 seconds, which again is crazy to me of like, there's this massive like gap in kind of placing overall, but when you look at it, it's only a difference of like a minute, which is insane.
Yeah, that it seems so like I'm not very well versed in cross country. Nobody in my family ran. Like I
Unfortunately,
really don't
my
know.
brother runs, so that's
Okay.
the sorry
like,
runners.
Yeah,
but you
that
guys are
seems
insane.
It seems like they'd be more spread out. I guess they all kind of just run as like a big pack.
Kind of for the most part, yeah. And then, you know, a couple of them will. It's always funny because I've seen a lot of high school cross country races, and you'll see like there's like 4 kids that always start, and they're like leading the pack, and everybody's like, "Oh, look at them, they're in the lead." And then it's like the first 100 yards, they're like booking it, and then like people who are a lot of cross country races will look at them and be like, "Nah, I'll give them another minute." And then all of a sudden they'll finish like 50th out of 100 or something like that. It's like, yeah, they just wanted to say they were in first place. They knew they weren't winning the race, so they might as well waste all their energy at the beginning. Be like, I was in first place for the first 1,000. Like that. Yeah. That was me. That was me up until I got to the hill at this golf course. But no, it's a cool with the Griak invite to get to go down there and compete. And that's how things shake out for the Beavers in their Griak. Also, a few other notes. Nadia Vaughn and Sophie Rylance stuck close together at 135th and 140 with times of 26:32 and 26:41, respectively. At 2:02, Ava Werner found a time of 27:55, and Aspen Road had a personal best with a 29:11 mark. Callie Ressler finished with a time of 30 and 50. The Beavers' 16th place finish, just down a couple spots from the last time the team competed in the race, all the way back in 2022. The next race for the Beavers, they're taking, again, the weekend off. They're going to be running at the Jimmy Invitational with new conference team Jamestown. That's coming up on October 3rd. Championships are then coming up October 24th at Wayne Country Club in Wayne. So, again, the cross-country season is one that, for lack of a better term, races on a little quickly. So that's, again, things are moving a little too fast. Yeah.
You blink and you miss it. We're already, this is what, episode 5 or 6 of the brand new Beaver Banter season 4. It's moving along, man. It's cruising. But yeah. If you want to touch on some volleyball that happened over the weekend, CJ, we can do that quickly before.
Yeah, let's do so. And then we'll talk a little ice hockey after that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the Beavers had to play against the number 6 team in the country in Southwest Minnesota State. They lost that game, or that match, 3-0, 25-18, 25-19, and 25-18 were the 3 sets against the Mustangs. And then Sioux Falls came to town as well. And it was a little bit closer of an affair. All the sets, Beavers ended up making it to 20. They lost 3-1 in that match. First set, they lost 25-20, 25-17. They won the second set, and then they ended up losing both the final sets, 25-22. Again, a pretty close affair in that one. Ava Eichmann led the team in kills with 14, and Kelly Struble ended up leading with 12 digs. Lily Reese, ended up getting 3 blocks, and then Madison Tripp led the team with 21 assists in that one. So, as we talk about plenty of times with volleyball, it doesn't get any easier. You get the number 16 team in the country coming
tonight,
up.
or at least as of recording this podcast tonight.
Oh, so yeah, it is tonight.
It's a midweek game, which throws it off. It's Tuesday night, so by the time you listen to this, that match will be over. But then again, nothing easy is you got to go to Augustana and
Wayne State this weekend. Yeah. So it's
on the same travel schedule as the soccer team.
But then, you know what? After that, you get a little bit of a reprieve and some teams that are not historically that terrific with Minot State, Mary, the newcomer in Jamestown, and then Northern State. That's a pretty decent, 3-week stretch. Even you go into mid-October, you got Moorhead and Crookston, both teams that the Beavers have played very tough. So you get through this weekend, maybe steal a win from one of these teams on the road, and then you've got an opportunity to pick up some more points and some more wins coming up soon.
Exactly. And by the way, going back to that Southwest Minnesota State game, Lily Reese had 13 kills. Ava Eighthman had 10 kills and a block. Nevaeh Carlson had 9 kills, 3 blocks, and Madison Tripp had 2 kills and an ace. So, you have some opportunities here to get win number 1 in NSIC play in the Coach Butte era as well for Bemidji State. So looking for that first conference win. And again, NSIC is such a tough conference. We've talked about it all the time. Bemidji State right now in that rebuilding tier, kind of towards the bottom of the NSIC right now, trying to work it up. And obviously you're not going to get it all in year 1. I'm not saying that they're going to be competing for the number 1 spot or anything. It's going to take time, but how can you play if you're going to be in that kind of rebuilding tier? Can you at least give some forward momentum for the program, and what is that going to look like and things like that? And I think Bemidji State has the capability over the next month to get a win or 2 in conference play and start to build that momentum. Maybe not this weekend considering how tough things look, but again, there's some opportunities on the horizon for this team to get some nice wins. So we'll see what happens there, and we'll keep an eye on the volleyball team as they go throughout a 3-game week. And then 3-game week, and then they have homecoming the next week. So a lot of stuff happening with that one. All right, Ian, let's talk a little women's hockey. They had their first exhibition, believe their only exhibition game of the season, and that was in Brainerd on Saturday, and that was against the University of Minnesota. And again, we talked about on last week's show, not only do they get that game, but they also get an actual game in Grand Rapids in January to play against Mankato at the Hall of Fame, in honor of the Hall of Fame. So they're playing it in Grand Rapids, but just a really cool opportunity. But looking at things too in that matchup being just kind of what are we thinking? What is kind of the opening? I know obviously it was in the middle of a day on the Saturday and it wasn't televised, but overall just good to see the women's hockey back out on the ice.
Yeah, we had some boots on the ground at that event. I believe the final score ended up being 5-1 in favor of the Gophers. So
by the way, it's why you should follow the Discord yes, where our guy Lucas of Beaver Territory was putting out kind of the play-by-play in a way.
Yeah, he's keeping us updated on that game. So don't know much about it. Of course, it's an exhibition, so you can take what you want from it. If you win the exhibition 4-0, it's obviously a great barometer for where your team is at and how much success you're going to have. But if you lose the game 5-1, it's just an exhibition, and we weren't trying anyways. So congrats.
We're just working on things right now.
Congrats on your fake win, Gophers, losers. If you're even trying in that game, to be honest.
What tryhards, honestly.
Lame energy, to be
honest.
Who
cares? Yeah, exactly. You're playing in Brainerd. Calm down. Sorry to the good folks of Brainerd. But anyway.
We do have real games this weekend, though, CJ.
They do, and it's at the Sanford Center. Let's go.
And it's against the number 1 team in the country.
Let's go.
Yes.
Go. Darn it. Wisconsin's defending national champions, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so.
Even better.
No, hey, you got to get them week 1, right? That's when they're not ready. They're not ready. You got to
steal it week 1. You come out, you're fully rested, you're ready to go. They got to make the trip all the way from Madison to Bemidji. So there you go.
Yeah. Saturday's game at 3:02, by the way, will be televised on Fox 9 Plus. So if you are in the Minnesota area, I believe it's just a local, streamed game on television. So yeah, it's on Fox 9 Plus. Otherwise it's on Big Ten Plus. But yeah, the season gets started off with a bang against the defending national champions, number 1 team in the country, Wisconsin. Again, we can say this all we want. It's a good barometer for where the team's going to be at. Obviously, it's just the first 2 games of the season. So, if you go out and lose, you don't want to overreact to it because it's just 2 games. But it'd be a good opportunity to, let's steal some points here, overtime loss. Or
at the very least,
win.
let's make them sweat it out. Let's not have them come in here and win like 8-1 on home ice. That'd be ideal.
Exactly.
And even, the series against Wisconsin is going to go how the series against Wisconsin is going to go. But you do have Robert Morris coming to town the weekend after, and that I think is where it's your opportunity to really kind of get the barometer of how this team's looking. You go on the road to Ohio State and Minnesota State after that. You have St. Thomas coming home, and then you go to the Gophers, playing 1 game at Mariucci and then 1 game at Ritter, it looks like, which is interesting. So looking at everything, though, in the series against Wisconsin, what's kind of the biggest thing where if you can notice this from Bemidji State women's hockey after this weekend, you'll go, you know what? It looks like we're taking the next step. What is that for you specifically? Is there something, or is it just kind of a general vibe?
I would say it's just kind of a general vibe, but if I had to pick something out, it would be scoring more than 3 goals, three or more goals on the weekend. Like you said, CJ, if you lose a couple of games, like 4-1, and then, you come out and lose, 5-0 the next game, that's kind of par for the course, what we've seen against Wisconsin the last couple of years. But if we can get the offense rolling, which I think is what really hurt this team at stretches last year, where it's just like, man, we get shut out so often. And then in these games that we do win, it's like we got to sweat out these defensive grinds. I think the defense really came around at points last year, and I'd love to see the offense, get off to a hot start. So if we can see 3 or more goals this weekend as a whole, I think that would be a really good sign.
And by the way, this should be noted. So again, women's hockey starts this weekend. And also for the men's hockey, this coming weekend will be the final weekend without Bemidji State men's hockey as they go to Anchorage October 3rd and 4th to get things going. Ian, it feels like we just got done talking about hockey, and here we go getting ready to talk about hockey again. Obviously, there's some bye weeks here and there and the Christmas break and things like that. But Ian, it looks like Bemidji State Beaver hockey is back.
Yeah, it is. Those games in Anchorage, by the way, will be televised. It looks like on YouTube. All of the are not televised, but they will be streamed for free. They'll be broadcasted for free on YouTube. You don't have to have YouTube TV. They're just on YouTube. That's what Anchorage does for all of their games. Again, you don't have to be in Discord to see it, but Lucas of Beaver Territory noticed that today when he was looking at it. We'll talk more about those games next week, but I don't know, dude. 10 p.m. puck drop on Friday. I don't know if I'll be staying up for that.
That works out great for me because I do high school football play-by-play on Friday nights, so that'll be perfect. I'll get done with the game, and then I'll roll right into watching the Beavers.
Well, I guess I have Fridays off at work. I work Saturday.
Just take a little nap in the middle of the day.
So maybe I just sleep all day during Friday, and then I wake up at like 10 p.m., watch the game, stay up all night, go to work.
And then you get back from work and watch the Beavers on Saturday.
Exactly.
We're cooking now. And then you just spend Sunday, kind of in the corner, passed out.
Yeah, I've entered a flow state at this point.
I am awake, but I am not sentient right now. My eyes are open and I am moving, but I am not in control of my actions as you walk through your living room into the corner, like just running into the wall.
As I crack a 13th white monster in 4 hours.
Your heart rate is moving, but it is moving at a rate so fast it cannot be picked up by the naked eye.
Yes, so, my heart is pumping so fast that it's controlling my sleeping body to still function.
You're on another plane of existence.
Yeah, I am not sentient at the moment.
You are awake and you're like, oh, cool, I can watch the hockey game, but you're on another plane of existence where there is no such thing as hockey. And you're like, this was a mistake.
And then I come on here the next week and I'm like, dude, did you see that we won 11-0 over Alaska Anchorage on Saturday? And you're like, what? No, we didn't. I'm like, what game?
No, we didn't. We won 12-0. What are you talking?
Dude, you must have fallen asleep.
You must have fallen asleep. They scored 11 more goals in the third period. So
yes.
Anyway,
now that we've completely derailed the podcast,
that means that the train's got to come into the station. You got another golf pun before we get out of here?
I don't.
Just another hole-in-one episode here for the Beaver Banter podcast.
There we go.
There we go. Follow us anywhere you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. Follow the Beaver Banter Discord. And once again, huge shout out to Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation for sponsoring the podcast. We're out of here. See ya next week.